A chilling tale of Shofia. In a small village nestled near the banks of a quiet river, there lived a little girl named Shofia. She was a lively and adventurous child, full of curiosity about the world around her. The village was her playground, and the people there were like family to her. However, there was one place that the villagers had warned Shofia to avoid: the river at night. The adults spoke in hushed tones about La Llorona, the weeping woman, a ghostly figure who wandered the riverbanks searching for her lost children. Shofia had always dismissed these stories as nothing more than old folk tales meant to keep children from wandering too far after dark. But one night, her perception of reality would change forever. It was the beginning of autumn, and the air was crisp with a faint chill. The village was quiet, with most of the villagers inside their homes, preparing for the coming winter. Shofia had been playing with her friends throughout the day, but as the sun began to set, she reluctantly started heading home. She walked along the narrow dirt road that led to her house, the sound of her footsteps barely audible over the evening breeze. The river was just a short distance away, its waters flowing calmly. Curiosity tugged at her mind, and despite the warnings, she felt an irresistible pull to take a quick detour toward the riverbank. The sky had turned a deep shade of purple by the time Shofia reached the water. The trees around the river rustled softly, and the surface of the water shimmered in the fading light. She stood there for a moment, enjoying the peacefulness of the scene, feeling as though the world belonged only to her in that quiet moment. Then, she heard it, a faint sound, like someone sobbing in the distance. Shofia's heart skipped a beat. She had never heard anything like it before. The sound was coming from farther down the river, near a bend where the trees grew thicker. It was a woman's voice, soft and mournful, carrying a deep sadness that made Shofia's chest tighten. It must be someone in trouble, Shofia thought. Her instinct to help overpowered her fear, and she slowly made her way toward the sound. As she walked, the sobbing grew louder, more distinct. The air around her seemed to grow colder, and the once gentle breeze had turned into a biting wind. Shofia wrapped her arms around herself, shivering, but pressed on. When she reached the bend in the river, she saw her. There, standing by the edge of the water, was a figure draped in a long, white dress. Her hair was long and dark, flowing down her back like a waterfall. The woman's face was turned away, but her shoulders shook with each sob, and the sound was now so clear that it echoed in Shofia's ears. "Are you okay?" Shofia called out, her voice trembling slightly. The woman didn't respond at first. She just continued to cry, her sobs growing louder and more anguished. Shofia took a cautious step closer, her heart racing in her chest. She wanted to help, but something about the scene felt terribly wrong. The air was thick with an eerie tension, and the shadows of the trees seemed to stretch toward her like dark hands. Suddenly, the woman stopped crying. The silence that followed was deafening, as though the whole world had been put on pause. Slowly, the woman turned to face Shofia. As her head moved, Shofia felt a wave of dread wash over her. The woman's face was pale, almost ghostly white, and her eyes were hollow, filled with a deep, unending sorrow. But what terrified Shofia the most was her mouth. It was twisted into a pained, unnatural grin, as though she was trying to smile through her tears but couldn't. "La Llorona," Shofia whispered, her body frozen in place. The woman took a step toward her, her long dress dragging across the ground as if it were soaked in water. "Where are my children?" the woman wailed, her voice echoing in the night. "Have you seen my children?" Shofia shook her head, too scared to speak. The woman's eyes bore into her, filled with a mixture of despair and fury. Shofia could feel the weight of the legend pressing down on her, the stories of La Llorona drowning her own children in a fit of madness, cursed to wander the earth forever in search of them. And now, the weeping woman was standing before her. Without warning, La Llorona let out a blood-curdling scream, a sound that pierced through Sofia's soul. It was the scream of a mother who had lost everything, and it echoed through the trees, sending birds scattering into the sky. Sofia's legs finally obeyed her, and she turned to run, her feet pounding against the dirt as she fled back toward the village. She didn't dare look back, but she could feel La Llorona's presence behind her, chasing her, her cries growing louder and more desperate. Sofia's house came into view, and she pushed herself to run faster, her lungs burning from the effort. She burst through the door, slamming it shut behind her. Her parents rushed to her side, their faces filled with concern as they tried to calm her down. Between sobs, Sofia told them what she had seen, her voice shaking with fear. Her parents exchanged worried glances but did not dismiss her story. They had heard the legend of La Llorona their whole lives, and while they had never seen her themselves, they knew the stories were not to be taken lightly. That night, they placed salt along the windows and doors, a traditional protection against spirits, and kept Sofia close. For weeks after the encounter, Sofia could still hear La Llorona's cries echoing in her mind. She avoided the river at all costs, and whenever the wind blew through the village at night, she would hold her breath, fearing that the weeping woman would return, searching once more for her lost children. The village remained quiet, and life slowly returned to normal, but Sofia was never the same. She had come face to face with a living legend, and though she had escaped with her life, the memory of La Llorona's sorrowful eyes and twisted grin would haunt her forever. The story of Sofia's encounter with La Llorona became another chapter in the village's lore, passed down from generation to generation as a warning to all who dared to stray too close to the river at night. And though many years would pass, and the tale would fade into legend, Sofia knew the truth. La Llorona was real, and she would never stop searching.